Welcome to the Health Technology Breakout session by Abimbola Adebakin. Abimbola is the CEO, Advantage Health Africa.
Use a deck of slides just to guide my thoughts and discipline what I say so that I don't go off point. So permit me to share my deck. The essence today is to talk about the new normal. And I know you've come through several sessions. So I want us to focus today or this hour on health tech in considering this new normal. So here goes. I will try and share my slides. Please share, keep in line, and then let us just. There's many things open here. Okay, you can all see the deck now.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So again, my name is Abimbola Adebakin. I originally studied pharmacy, so I'm a pharmacist. And then I took a course in management at a master's level. So I have an MBA, both from the University of Lagos, Nigeria. Later in my career, almost a decade after graduation, I began to see myself in another space. I had then worked in Accenture, working on several things in the financial services sector. And then I realized that there's so much more out there. There's health and there's more. So to combine health, I started to study organizational behavior, studying things around strategy, operations, and growth. And so today, this is me sharing from my studies and then from my experience in trying out what I happen to know. So health tech, I want to be focusing on skills for innovation and relevance. But before that, what is really health tech about? For me, it must address a problem. And one of the key things we're trying to address in healthcare is the universal health coverage. Universal health coverage to me is the mandate. It's the mandate that every healthcare provider has. It's the mandate that every healthcare administrator has. Anyone who is romancing the health sector, financing it, studying it, covering it in the media, trying to do anything in healthcare, I think should begin to look at universal health coverage. Because you see, when we look at healthcare, many of us see it from the curative perspective. That is, somebody is ill with malaria, somebody is ill with HIV. How do we cure or how do we, manage it? For me, however, from the perspective of UHC, promotive, preventive, curative, rehabilitative, and palliative health services must be our focus. It cannot be one out of five. It really needs to be all five perspectives that we look out for. That and only then and only then can we begin to talk about sufficient quality for it to be effective. In all of these also, when you're looking at quality and full scope, you must make sure it does not expose users to financial hardship. So if we're looking at universal health coverage, we look at the fact that do we even have access to full coverage? Right now, we don't. A few examples show that we have chronic drug stockouts up and down. I have someone who's been on my case since morning today, looking for a particular antiretroviral, and when we found it, it comes at a very exorbitant price. One vial is going for 1.6 million naira. So even where you find access, you have issues of affordability. Now, many people are able to pay through some program or the other. They have a health insurance cover. But if you study the numbers, according to what we hear in the latest numbers, less than 5% of Nigeria's active population is covered by health insurance. And there are very few other models that have been considered for payment for health services, health materials, health medicines, and so on. So affordability happens to be an issue. And the low service charge is also another issue. I want to talk about low service charge. It means that if you compare what we pay for healthcare in Nigeria, and I beg to say across majority of Africa, it's still low compared to what others are paying in the US and several other countries. So what can you do? You can't make healthcare cheaper than it really is. It's already too cheap, which is why we have many of our professionals within the sector going to other clients that are paying them much more simply because, and I don't try to say it's one reason, but simply because the value put to them is higher there and they can afford to pay them because they're charging much more. So I think that we should look into the area of health affordability, not from trying to make it cheaper, but from trying to find alternative sources to funding healthcare than we have done currently. So there are issues of access. When you do have access, there are issues of affordability. But when you do have access and affordability, we then begin to consider big issues of quality. To me, all of those three things need to be addressed when we're looking at tackling health, universal health coverage. And now health tech has emerged, and health tech is saying we can do something about this. We can take access as a problem and tackle it. We can take affordability as a problem and we can tackle it. We can also take quality as a problem and tackle it. They are not mutually exclusive. So I can actually be tackling access and affordability, or access and quality, or any of the two or three combinations. Now look at this very quick scan of the sector that was done in 2018. I love referring to this over and over whenever I think about health tech, because it's somebody's perspective of grouping, of categorizing what is present, what is happening. And I love to use it as a reference point when I'm talking about health tech, because this for me is the landing page. This is where you should go. What is somebody doing in pharma? What is someone doing in supplies? And I'm sure you can see yours truly here, mymedicines.com. What is somebody doing in maternal and childcare? What is someone doing in electronic health records and electronic medical records? What's someone else doing in health finance and health insurance, or in telemedicine, or in education and content, or in services in general? Let me tell you, when you're looking at health tech, I tend to hear many people dovetail straight to telemedicine. Yes, it's nice and sexy to talk about telemedicine and say, oh, telemedicine seems to be health tech. But there's a big space. And by this scan, you can see there's a huge space. Take, for example, what Doctora does here under services. They emerged then in the 2017-2018, providing hardware as a service, finding space, finding redundant space, and coming to use that to serve the public through plugging health providers into those spaces, into the equipment and the facilities that were available currently and that could have been better utilized. Look at what we're doing in pharma, where MedSafe, Drugstock, and a few other companies have begun to do more group purchases and using technology to enhance the efficiency and the effectiveness. That's health tech. In supplies, one of the things we do is to discover where medicines exist all across Nigeria and to find how to plug the gap of those who have gone to 3, 4, 5, 6 pharmacies and cannot seem to find the medicine. What they tend to think is that, oh gosh, the medicine does not exist in Nigeria. And quickly they go on the phone, they go on an email or on WhatsApp and start to bother those of their family members abroad, saying, oh, send so and so medicine to mama or to papa, we can't find it in Nigeria. We've been contacted so many times by those in diaspora saying, look, do you have this medication? And we are able to find it because we've used technology to find how to aggregate people and then to leverage their inventory. Look at what is happening in maternal and child care. Baby Migo is one of the examples I'll be sharing with you, soon. And I love the story of Baby Migo because this was set up by someone who just said simple technology. So since technology doesn't have to be all of the AI and VRs of this world or all of the, artificial intelligence. He started with SMS, and that really is low tech. So if you look at health tech, it can be as low tech as SMS and WhatsApp, to as high tech as AI, artificial intelligence, and even much more further, as we'll talk about as we go on. Another thing you can look at is what Helium is doing in EHR. I'll talk about that, and what is happening in health finance and HMO. Reliance HMO came out from Kankbe, and I like to point that out when we're talking about health ventures and health tech ventures in particular. You might start from one point, but that doesn't mean you stay in that point. You find that the landscape is huge. It is a huge deep landscape, and you can take one part of that landscape, start from it as your entry point, and evolve over time into a more realistic, more suited area for you. So a skill you must have is one where you can pivot, and that's one of the things you should note as we go along. I'm rushing, so please let me know if I'm over rushing, but I need to be able to cover this and then answer questions or comments that you have later on, address some of them. So I'm going to try and do this in the next 20 to 15 minutes. So look at Baby Migo. Larry Adioye started by volunteering in a maternity home or something of that nature during one of the closures of universities. And he learned a lot. He's not necessarily a health provider by training, but by observation, a key trait that I think everybody must have. By observation, he was able to connect the dots, and he saw that pregnant women or people who are just giving birth or who were looking to be pregnant needed insights. They needed information. They needed to have technical jargons translated to street knowledge so that they could keep up to date with what was needed. Women were finding were finding it difficult to close their small shops or kiosks that was in front of their house and go to attend antenatal. Yet they still needed to know the power of taking folic acid and how to prevent damages to their fetus, or how to make sure they ate well or slept well or avoided stress that could damage the baby. Now, this is information that is readily available in the medical sector, but it is not common knowledge and common sense to everybody. Therefore, he began to use text, SMS, to transmit this information. Last year, Baby Migo was identified as one of the top 50 companies to watch out for in the Times newspaper, in Times magazine. This is a global magazine that recognized the huge community that Larry Adioye and his co-founders have developed. They have over 100,000 women that are in that community they have built, all focused on maternal care. This is how you can use health tech to leverage and bypass knowledge gaps and access to such information. Look at someone I admire a lot, Temi Giwa. Temi Giwa has evolved over the years into someone that has owned her space. She's owning the space of blood banks. Now, she doesn't necessarily have a blood bank. What she does is to discover where there is blood and identify where you have the need and use technology to create an efficient and available system to block that gap. She's now moving across Nigeria, expanding across the continent. In fact, recently, I understand in Tanzania, she's now launched a drone service that you can pick up blood and deliver using drones. This is technology. This is you discovering a gap of access and making it affordable and convenient for others to receive what they need in healthcare. So this is blood. What about other things? She started to do air bank, which is providing oxygen for those in hospital care. She's even beginning to look at other areas. But if you even tackle just blood, that is a huge area that you can spend a lifetime addressing, and you still need 6, 7, 8 more of you to begin to tackle it efficiently or effectively across Africa. So sometimes you look at health tech and you say, what are the products that are missing? What are the areas that are giving people the nightmares? If I was in a hospital today, what do my family members have to run around to find? That's an area that is sitting pretty, waiting for you to come and address it. If everyone had opportunity to build something like Life Bank, then the world would be a better place. So I call on you attending this webinar. What do you have an opportunity to build around healthcare that you can use technology to leverage? Another area that I love is about electronic medical records. Look, we need to move far away from where we are currently, where we're relying on paper records or no records. I heard about a healthcare provider yesterday who didn't want his staff to know his total daily sales. And therefore, All sales were recorded on paper and kept in a box. And if you really wanted to make sense of that data, you needed to then begin to collate into a system at the end of day or end of week or end of month to create information, because it is from data converted to information that you can then use it to create knowledge. If you don't know the trend of how many patients are walking into your pharmacy or walking into your clinic and what conditions they're coming with, guess what? You cannot prepare for next year. You can't even prepare for next month. The resources you will have will always be short or off point. Knowledge is power. Data itself is not power. But if you have record systems that can convert data to knowledge, you can then use that in a business intelligence manner that helps you to have far-reaching efficiencies over your competition. That is how some countries can know when Ebola outbreak happens, and they can plan for it and quench it right before it becomes a pandemic. That is how some states are able to understand when yellow fever outbreaks happen, and they can quickly contain it. That is how some organizations are able to quickly build up facilities and deploy professionals to address huge gaps when they see the information put together into knowledge. We cannot underestimate the power of electronic medical records. So when you have a hospital that is still deciding whether it is nice to have electronic records, honestly, they haven't started business. Same way all across the sector: physiotherapy, pharmacy, nursing, hospitals, so many other aspects, dietary services. We must embrace EMRs. And if Helium Health is able to make success of what they're doing, I think we'll go a long way. But there can be 20 of such Helium Health. There can be 20 of such providers who know how to craft the technology and sell it on as a must-have, not as a nice-to-have to healthcare providers. Another example I'll quickly touch on is Tehika. Tehika is in Uganda. So you see, it's not just about Nigeria. We're seeing health tech evolving all across Africa. And we're saying enough of us doing what we used to do the way we're used to. Decades of doing that has not served us well. We have represented ourselves on, in a bad light as a nation or as a continent that has not yet embraced progress. That's why you still find investments in other sectors or in other continents much more than you find in Africa or in healthcare. But it's changing. And that's why some people in some circles are saying that the COVID pandemic seems to be a blessing in disguise, because now the attention of the world is in how to invest in healthcare. And I'm beginning to hear more now how to invest in healthcare in Africa. So this is not just about Nigeria. This is what is beginning to happen, particularly to those who are now curious. How do we enter and penetrate healthcare and fund health tech particularly? You can fund platforms like this, where you're able to book a nurse for a day, book a nurse for specific conditions, or even as someone that would accompany you on a medical journey, so that they act in a way to help you to interpret the jargons that are flying over your head, but they help you to also have access to the right care that you should have. I think we have hundreds of maternity centers in Nigeria that are overlooked and underutilized to address our healthcare needs. Many of us do not know that we have over 500 nurse-managed maternity centers in Lagos alone. Now, how are we using technology to leverage the power of that network? I think it's an area that we can look at for us to advance healthcare across Africa. Recently, a group called Impact for Health studied what we're doing in Advantage Health Africa and identified our ambitious goals to actually provide access, affordability, and quality of healthcare using several of our ventures. One of our ventures is mymedicines.com, which we launched 2017 October. We've also launched My Medicines and My Pharmacy, and then we will launch My Clinic and My Lab soon. But we're beginning to see that the dots need to be connected, and however we can do it, whoever we can do it with, whenever we can do it, and in whatever way we can do it. We need to accomplish that access to healthcare, that affordability of healthcare, and that quality of healthcare that the world deserves. So mymedicines.com is simply bridging the gap of locating where medicines exist, genuine and affordable, and making sure that you have it at home, in the office, or even sometimes we found those who are in health facilities that have run out of. We've had calls for Lucifin, for example, in a hospital on the island, that when they looked around all of the pharmacies around them, they just could not get it. And we were able to get it from somewhere else within Lagos. We've had people, someone with cardiac arrest, where in the hospital they had run out of the 2 vials they had and needed 6. In the rain, we had our officers go to deliver to make sure this man's life was saved, and it was saved. So it's irrespective of who you are, because his daughter that made that call to us is a top executive of one of the Fortune 500 companies in the world, and she's representing that company here in Nigeria, and they did not have access to medicine. So when we look at access issues, it is not about poverty, or it is not that we're looking simply addressing those who are, in the bottom of the pyramid. We're addressing a global phenomenon that needs to be addressed in the most efficient way across Africa. We're doing that in Nigeria. Another thing that I want to talk about during this session is the power of collaboration. I don't necessarily have to set up the telemedicine facility, but if I'm able to collaborate with one who has done it, like we have done with Health Connect, they have a 24-hour center that is now many HMOs and many partners are beginning to use. And we're finding benefits in collaboration. So if you're interested in health tech, maybe an angle or an avenue for you to enter is to see who can I partner with and what can I create in partnership. One of the things we have created is the My Pharmacy franchise network, franchise chain of pharmacies. Because we know that there is power in numbers. And if we're going to, make a dent into the huge challenges that we have, we don't necessarily have to go alone. We can collaborate to compete. And it's called, the term is co-opetition, where you actually have parties who find themselves collaborating to compete in the marketplace. And health tech needs to embrace more and more competition. So what 5 habits would I say that I'll charge you with? 1, what problems do you see in your practice today? If you're a healthcare provider, I want you to not walk away from that problem. I want you to dig further, discover why is it happening? Who is it affecting? When did it start? Where is it occurring? And where else is it occurring? And what have they done with it where it is? So dig further. Ask yourself reflective questions. You don't need to ask them on social media, my friend, everyone here. Ask internally and begin to use the resources and the platforms available to you to study to get answers to those problems. Because if you dig further, guess what? You might stumble on a model and you'll be like, what? I can actually use this and provide it here. So don't pass the buck. See yourself as a solutions provider. Find out if you might actually be in this situation that you are in for such a time as this. So embrace technology where possible for efficiency. This is not for you to go out and say, well, I'm playing in health tech and really it's for show. No, remember I said it can be as low tech as SMS to as high tech as high tech can be. But you must see how you can embrace technology to bridge that gap. Then begin to develop critical skills. And my last slide after this is really one where I try to put out all of the critical skills that I think you'll be interested in building. Sometimes you have to volunteer to work in a place to develop those skills. It's not everything you can read or everything you can know from school. Sometimes it is in practicing, in getting your fingers dirty, rolling up your sleeves and getting into the thick of it, running with a team, that you actually develop those critical skills. Also, learn to, open yourself to positive influences and perspectives. Enough of the beer parlor gist that lead nowhere. Enough of just grumbling and worrying. Somebody was complaining recently or how the government has even lowered the budget for healthcare. Guess what? Our healthcare budget is a percentage of a total. If that total shrinks, then our whole portion shrinks. So get with it and move on. How do we then make better use of the very little that is available, rather than griping over things you can't control? In my mind, number 4 is for you to change your perspective and know what you can control. How do you use technology to break bulk, for example? How do organizations that evolved from recessions, how do they make it now? In 2008, we saw Airbnb emerge. We saw Uber emerge. What happened? What triggered it? How did they emerge in their transport sector or their hospitality sector? And what can I use and learn from that to change my perspective to emerge now as a health tech provider, solving issues that address universal health care, particularly issues of access, affordability, and quality. Lastly, take action. Learn to do and not just to know. Many of us are sitting on enough information for you to begin to act upon. Don't keep seeking knowledge and not doing. Create an outlet for yourself to do, whether within an organization as an entrepreneur or outside an organization as a hustler or as a venture, as an adventurer or as an entrepreneur, or within an association, or even just volunteering with a body that is doing something right now. Don't limit yourself. Don't say, oh, well, I really don't know much, or I don't have a lot of experience. Guess what? You have certain skills within you that are latent. You have certain traits within you that may be useful. You have certain perspectives that you can bring on board. So last slide for this session that I will be speaking to is the skills that I think are needed for you to thrive in health tech. And I'm sure you will agree with me that some of them are common knowledge. They make sense. Whether you are in health tech or fintech or logistics tech, whatever, whether you're not even in tech, employability skills are important. Your ability to keep to time, to note deadlines and meet them. And if you're not going to be able to make a deadline, guess what? Buy more time by negotiating. Don't keep mute and then stay away. Learn how to manage your budget and how to manage resources that are available to you. These are important employability skills. Knowing how to show up, even if it's simply to ask, what can I do? How can I help? Learning to speak up at work, learning to contribute to a discussion, even if all you contribute is who. Okay, so after all this long meeting, can I summarize what I got out of it? And you will reel out 7 or 6 or 3 points that you got out, and it helps to bring clarity. Those are skills that you must bring on board if you're if you want to play in health tech as well. Strong communication skills are also very important, particularly non-verbal skills. I say to many people that if you are working anywhere and your non-verbal skills are poor, you don't show up, they don't see you, you don't feature on the radar, guess what? You are not communicating, even if you are writing and speaking. You must show up. You must pay attention. You must look bright and alive and involved. You must take interest and show it in your eyes. I'm someone that looks into someone's eyes a lot, and maybe I creep out a few of my colleagues. But really, I look out for nonverbal cues because they say much more than what you're actually speaking out of your mouth. Another thing in communication is balance and poise, especially when you're on social media and you think, is this essential? Is this expedient? Is this really necessary? The internet never forgets. Am I really interested in putting this out and allowing any and everybody to see it? Will it determine my future tomorrow? Some of the things that we communicate really are non-essential, and we're putting out to the world there, not caring, not giving, who sees it. Sometimes you have to address yourself with poise, and that starts with self-respect and self-governance. Now, mastery of self is one of the skills you must acquire as you grow on your journey. It will not happen in one day. I started my own self-awareness journey maybe 13, 12 years ago. And I tell you, it has helped me. It has helped me to know what are my strengths, what are my affinities. An affinity is something that You wake me up and by default, who am I? It helps me to know that I have this ability to connect dots. I can connect up to 20 dots, and it's both a strength and a weakness. Because as a strength, I'm able to see maybe a quick future that several others are still spending time seeing. But also as a weakness, it can make me go paranoid very quickly. And it's from self-awareness that I need to know how to manage that, that ability. But if you don't know yourself, you can't govern yourself. You can't know whether you hurt people, you're toxic, and therefore the day you now want co-founders, you can't find them. You don't know whether with your ability to be brash and direct, which you tell people, that's who I am, take me as I am, you are putting off signals that are really repelling those who might want to invest in you tomorrow. So self-governance is a skill, and you must master it first from self-awareness. Start with knowing yourself from psychometric assessments. Some useful ones are available online. You can start with an MBTI assessment. There's a 16 something assessment. Google it and please find it and do one today. Know yourself, your strengths, your limitations, your affinities, and some of the things that you are good at, and also what you're not good at. It helps you to begin to know how to use your strengths to address your limitations. I can't talk too much about that, but please, it's a skill. Can you see I haven't talked about any technology skills so far? The next one is resilience, your ability to stay balanced and pivot when needed, not when you're weak. You can pivot, please, in business. You can pivot as an entrepreneur. You can pivot while you are working in a large corporation. But please do not do it when you haven't exercised resilience and balance. Staying power is so important. Ability to stay with one thing, study it completely, and cross that, dot that thing and say, yes, done. I have tried this and it has worked, or I have tried this, I have gained something from it, and I have moved on. Ability to close that door and actually open a new door. For me, that's what resilience is. Resilience is not just staying like a stubborn bulldog and not moving away. Sometimes you have to know when to close a door and then open a new one deliberately. The word there is intentional resilience, ability to stay and then choosing when to pivot when you know you have fulfilled your heart's desire in that matter. Another skill for me is critical thinking, because you must take a subject matter and understand, all right, everybody seems to be saying it from one angle. How else can I see it? What else really is missing here? Who else and when else? These are things that help you to become a critical thinker, because then you will actually go and read even unpopular blogs, even things that are not mainstream, and you might find that that's where you discover the truth about a matter. You might find out that that is where you'll actually uncover what is happening in Bangladesh and India that you can bring and drop here. What is happening in Mexico and Brazil that you can say, so that means it is possible. I remember once when I came across information that showed me that in Mexico, I hope you know Mexico is one of the N11 countries, just like Nigeria. Mexico has chains of pharmacies that are running into 5,000. Mexico. So I didn't even look at United States and United Kingdom. I looked at Mexico, looked at Argentina, looked at Brazil, and when I discovered it was done there, I said, guess what? It can be done in Nigeria. All I need to know is how to do it, what else to do, who else to go with, and when else. And that's how we've begun to think about my pharmacy franchise. So please, critical thinking is essential, and you must have it amongst the people that you work with, because I love it when my team is thinking out of the box, but they can't think out of the box if they're not doing how else, what else, who else, when else. Another thing is ideation, seeing far and connecting the dots. And you learn that from studying other models. What is happening in aviation that you can actually learn and use and apply in healthcare? Ideation is one of the contents of one of the courses of a project or a program that we're driving in pharmacy, where we're trying to build up the leadership skills of a new crop of young pharmacists. It's called the Pharmacist Leadership Stimulant Program. And they're studying ideation, and one of the things that they'll go through in a 12-week online course. I'm so proud of the content there, because we've tried to bring examples from all over the world, but more importantly, all over the sectors where we can use to apply in healthcare. And I beg you, do not be insulated. Don't just read healthcare and think that's all. Open yourself out, open your mind, and brainstorm with others. Be ready. In fact, there's a program that I helped to start by KB Club in Medela, in College of Medicine, where it's called I've forgotten the name right now. It happens once a year, and one of the things they did in the previous sessions was to get young students within the school to collaborate with maybe someone in legal or someone in social sciences in another department, especially even another campus, to come up with their own ideas of what to do in healthcare. They've come up with fantastic solutions, ambulance services, fast response services, things that, if implemented, will actually address healthcare. So ideation is a skill you must have. Thinking far and being able to connect the dots. Syndication and creating synergy, especially being comfortable in ambiguity. What is ambiguity? You don't have all the facts. There are some of us that will remain immobile. You can't move, you can't do anything because you are fixed, because you don't have all the facts. Guess what? In this new world that we're entering, the new world order requires you to still be comfortable with ambiguity. It's a VUCA environment. It's volatile, it's uncertain times we're in, it's complex, and there is ambiguity. You don't have all the answers from the beginning. Start. That's what it means. It's a venture. You go into an adventure. So start, acquire knowledge, volunteer, plug yourself in somewhere, and begin to syndicate with others that you're not even familiar with. That's when you begin to appreciate diversity. That's when you begin to appreciate someone who has certain perspective to an idea that you never had. And then you can collaborate and rub your minds and your skills and your access and your networks together and get something beautiful out of it. The eighth that I would say is be open to technology. You may not be the expert in that particular technology. You need to be open to it. I'm very open. There's artificial reality, there's virtual reality, there's Internet of Things, there's artificial intelligence, all sorts of things in business intelligence where you're using data and converting it. All of these things, be open. Begin to be familiar with platforms. Google has all sorts of tools. Amazon, become familiar with them. Even if you don't use them, know them, and you find how they can be relevant in your business. Enter some of these hackathons and competitions just for you to be exposed to some of the things they're saying there. Other sectors' knowledge and insights will also pay off for you in health tech. So don't just be saying, oh, I'm a medical doctor and I know medicine. Yes, you're a medical doctor, fine. Do you know supply chain? Do you know how supply chain will address some of your concerns and the problems you are seeing in medicine? What about human psychology? How people will choose an unhealthy health behavior over and above a healthy one, even when there's no cost to them. Do you understand what drives people to make decisions to seek health? That is, their health-seeking behavior just does not make sense. But if you know human psychology, it opens up and unravels, and then you begin to understand why. And then you can now plug your solution to address that psychological deficit or gap that you didn't see before. Do you understand marketing and all the P's in marketing? Do you know how to come together with a product, price it appropriately, place it in the right way and using the right channels, and promote it using the necessary things? How are you selling something to the elderly and trying to use social media to sell to them? Guess what? There are not so many on social media. Their children, yes, they are on social media. So if you are targeting the elderly and you are targeting their children who will buy for them using social media, right on. But if you are targeting the elderly, come on, they are on traditional media. So learn how to use the right promotion channel for the right audience. Finance is also another area that we must know. I continue to grapple with finance, but I keep exposing myself to finance for non-finance. One day I will understand it. But all I know is, are we making money? Is the money going? Is it coming? Did we make profit? Is it gross profit or net profit? Understand some of those things so that you will know that revenue is not everything. Just generally, selling is not everything. Are we making profit? And can that sustain us, or do we have to build in a sustainability plan? Other things like legal perspectives to contracts and to networking and to collaboration, you must know them. You must know when to sign an agreement. Don't wait till 1 year and then you start whining and crying on social media, on Twitter that, oh, I didn't sign something. Please sign. I have been in that box many times and I keep telling myself, you know what, learn from it and move on. Also knowing how to understand UI, UX and the principles of user experience and user interface is a skill to have. Lastly, network, network, network. Because I read somewhere, and I keep saying it up and down, that there used to be a time when content is king. Everybody here says that, and I agree with you to a large extent. I think now community is king. Building a community is therefore a life journey that I have. My dream is this. Let me tell you my dream. I dream, I'm looking at my map over there on the wall, my map of Africa. I dream to build a huge community across Africa of healthcare providers using some solution that I have deployed there to make their work more effective, more efficient for them to address the healthcare needs of Africans, the access to healthcare, the affordability of healthcare, and the quality of healthcare. So I see myself as an enabler of providers who in turn then go on to provide to the millions of Africans. We have a continent of 1.3 billion people. You must address one of their healthcare needs. Thank you very much. I think I can now take questions. I hope I still have time.
Yes, you do. Thank you very much for the amazing and insightful session. Thank you so much. I'm so sure everybody in the audience they've learned a lot. They took a lot, and we're taking questions now. So I have a few questions here, and
Okay.
the first one is for someone that doesn't have health background, how do you break into health tech? Would
Okay.
you like to take that
So
now?
do you want me to take the questions? Because I'm not writing, so I can take them one by one. How do
Yeah,
you
that's fine.
venture into health tech if you don't have a health background? I think it's very clear that health tech requires more than a health background. So it's clear to me. So I want to encourage you that don't see it as a disadvantage where you don't have a health background. You've not studied pharmacy, you've not studied medicine or physiotherapy, you're not a nurse, or you're not a dietitian. Don't worry about that. Do you see a problem? That's what you should ask yourself. What problem do you see? Temi Giwa of Life Bank is not in any way a health provider, but she is today solving a huge problem of blocking gaps in blood delivery. So she's providing a logistical service, a logistic-based service using technology to bridge that. So she's in health tech. Bemimigo was set up by Larry Adeoye. He's nowhere a nurse or a physician, but he has seen a gap in knowledge and he's solving it. So there are many ways you can enter. I think the first is find the problem, study it, volunteer somewhere, or work with somebody, begin to brainstorm and bring what you have. You may have supply chain, you may have access to resources, you may have a finance background, but find what you have, hold it strongly and bring it to the table, and then find what you don't have and co-opt them into what you need.
Thank you very
Any
much.
other
Thank you
questions?
very much for that answer. So, I would love to ask a question. Um, it's quite clear. I mean, you mentioned it while you were presenting earlier that we don't have a lot of funds coming in into Africa, coming into Nigeria, coming into health sector for to to back up ideas in health tech. So, for a person that doesn't have access to funding, what do you suggest? How do you suggest the person set out, to build a scalable tech solution in health?
Okay, I think there are many ways to start. One could be by looking at your own savings and working with that, or if you have a full-time job somewhere that's paying you something and you're putting money aside and time aside. But that's for the financial needs. I, however, have the opinion and I take the stand that money is not the first thing you need to start a business. I don't take money lightly. I love money when it's serving me. Money is not, however, the first thing that you need. You must have an idea and you must have something that solves that idea, like a very blurry picture of solving that idea. And you must see how, if it is well done, it will translate to money. Now, if you can start with that, then work on it. You have started with a seed. Then find who do you need to work with you, either in teaming with you or helping you to open the right doors. So when you look at that, the who is so important. You know, everybody says, oh, it's who you know, who you know. Look, I agree with you. It is who you know. Now, the who you know is not for you to become to come and kiss their backside. It is for you to leverage their networks and be responsible with that network that they open up to you. Therefore, social capital is very important to me. And I dare say that sometimes social capital is even much more important than financial capital. The other thing is, so you've got intellectual capital, you've got social capital, you then need time and space to test out your idea. And if somebody can give you their organization for you to test your idea, I think it's great. So I tell people who are working in pharmacies, in clinics, guess what? You have been given an opportunity to test an idea. Don't misuse your opportunity of being an employee somewhere. It is huge, huge leverage that you have. Leverage the opportunity and show how that owner can even do better by you exercising that opportunity. I tell someone, if you come to me with an idea that says, oh, do you know we can grow our revenue if we do X, Y, Z, and let us test in one pharmacy, I will be open to try it. I have some very some brilliant team members. Someone has told me, what if we put kiosk here, there for this and that? I'm like, let's try it. But is it expensive starting? Give me the numbers. I'm open to explore. She's been entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial, but she's not starting with money. It might be my own money. So sometimes in the place where you find yourself, use that. Don't be playing, hanky panky and be working behind. Sometimes open up to the owner and let them see how entrepreneurial you are, how innovative you are. So to me, that's the starting point. So don't be distracted by this story of if you don't have money. But now going to the bigger picture of investments in healthcare, the investments are beginning to come in, but they're looking for bankable projects. They're looking for things that have been tested. Very few are angel investors that will invest when you're starting. Very, very few. More of them are venture capitalists that want to see that you have some track record, some traction. You can show them, oh, this is what I have built so far. I have acquired 180 customers. I'm looking to acquire 5,000. They want to start with you when you have built a traction. And they're coming up more. In fact, some are now even indigenous. They're actually Africans funding African projects now. So, but don't be distracted first that, oh, it's only until you have money. Start with intellectual capital, social capital, the leverage you have of where you are, and then money will follow.
Wow, awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for that response. We have another question here. A major challenge in healthcare is issue of affordability. Please, ma, how does health tech help in circumventing this challenge, seeing as technology isn't really cheap? Did you get that?
Affordability, you said.
Yes, yes, affordability of
Affordab
health tech
affordability to the provider or affordability to the consumer?
to the consumer, to the consumer.
Okay, okay, great. I think that first of all, if you look at the profile of most consumers, they can be quickly broken into high end and low end. In Nigeria, for example, they tell us the high to middle end are 10% of our population, and then the low end are 90% of our population. If you look at it from there, you may say, it's a small market that I can address. I'll only be able to address the high to middle end. That's a substantial number anyway. That's more than 20 million people. And maybe an active buying group there can be up to 5 million, one quarter of the population that is in the high end. They're the buyers. Some are children and some are really elderly. So that middle might be your target. 5 million is a big market. So affordability really should not be your concern from day go. You might find a market that is no more than 50,000 people subscribing to you once a month for a year, and you have made it. That's all. But that, I don't want us to take our eyes away from the 90% that is in the bottom of the pyramid, because that 90% is borrowing credit today, and they are borrowing over 10 billion naira on a daily basis. Are you telling me that human beings that can borrow 10 billion naira a day for credit, call, and data cannot afford healthcare if we make it attractive to them? I think what we have done with healthcare that has made it unaffordable is that we've not made it attractive. We've not made it convenient to pay for healthcare. There's a venture we're starting now that we have begun to, explore. We're digging deep, and we will come up with that begins to take that 90% and their ability to pay, not in bulk, not at once, but over a period that makes it convenient for them. And guess what? They pay higher. If you look at the microfinance solutions today, they pay higher rates than a normal regular bank. In a microfinance bank, you pay interest of about 40 to 70% per annum. Why? Because you are paying, let's say, 5% per month. In a regular commercial bank, you don't pay more than 1.5% per month. Yet people are flocking to microfinance banks because they made it convenient for them to borrow 40,000, 60,000, 200,000 and pay small. That is what we need to look at in healthcare. Guess what? It flips over the narrative of it not being affordable for us to now say, what creative ways and avenues can I put in place to make healthcare more attractive to pay for than borrowing 10 billion credit per day? I hope that answers your question. I could sit here all day and talk about healthcare financing. So don't let me take too much of your time on that.
Thank you very much, ma. I'm super sure that our audience would also sit down and listen to you all day because it's a really, really engaging session. So the next question is from Joy Bethram. As a medical student, how do you balance schooling, still being academically excellent and gaining the needed skills for going into health tech? So this person is talking about, combining running an excellent academic life and, getting the required skills and experience needed, for health tech.
I think it lies in your interest and what you're doing already. That you're on this webinar, you are just one out of what, 100 people. You're already doing it. You're already feeding yourself with knowledge, new knowledge. You are exposing yourself. You are gathering your arsenal, so to speak. You're spending your time on platforms like this rather than watching football. Not that football is not an area to, to spend time in. Because for me, the business of football is much more important than Ronaldo kicking the ball. I see, okay, I'm going to divert. When they buy these players and take them from club to club, when they bought Ronaldo, the day he signed on, they more than paid for what they paid for him, just in selling the merchandise, selling the t-shirts, more than $100 million was made in selling t-shirts for someone that you bought for, let's say, 80 million. I don't have the exact figures, but the point is the business of football is much more important to me than the game itself. Likewise, healthcare. If you're studying it and you're not studying the business of healthcare, then you're wasting your time. So by being here, you're already exposing yourself. Read more, watch some documentaries. And when I say read, read biographies. Read how some companies fell. I love the kind of books that I exposed myself to in university days. They were telling us about, AOL and how AOL fell. Read such books. And if you can't read a book, read an article. Go online, scout for organizations like Airbnb. Get I have subscription to Audible. I don't always use it, but I wish I could use it more. So subscribe to some of those things, channels that bring you information at your convenience. But spend at least 90% of your time in school on your schoolwork. So don't say, oh, now I need to be an entrepreneur, so we'll find you lacking in schoolwork. I did that at the time and I had to repeat. Please don't do my own mistake. Focus on your schoolwork, but make sure you are not insulated and far away from knowledge that is being shared. So I think you're good. I wouldn't worry if I were you. I think that if you focus on your schoolwork, but also still keep, a small eye on what is going on. Don't spend too much time on social media arguing whose dance is better. Use it to follow certain, smart knowledge experts, subject matter experts. Follow them. Just following one or two threads of them a week might help you to gather more of that information and insights that you need.
Thank you very much, Ma, for the beautiful response. So, another question is, yeah, COVID-19 is here, and there's a whole lot of things that is changing and all. What is the reality, that COVID-19 brings for the health tech sector in Nigeria? I feel like with COVID-19, in fact, even opens a lot of opportunities and things that could be worked on. So I would love to have more insight and trends from somebody already, doing the work. I mean, from you, Ma. So insight and trend into the realities of COVID-19.
Okay, so four things I'll say about COVID-19, and permit me to refer you to my company website. It's I granted a CNN interview recently, and I think you'll find the link on our website. It's mypharmacy.africa or advantagehealthafrica.com. Just check it and check our handles also. So COVID-19
Sorry, could
portends
you
to me
could you
four
repeat
things.
the web address so that I could
Okay, I
type it
just
out in the
type
chat
it
box?
in the okay, I just type it mypharmacy.africa and also advantagehealthafrica.com. I hope I spelled it right. Now, so COVID-19 does four things, or did four things, or is doing four things. One, it has changed the appetite of people for tech-enabled solutions. So more people have, gravitated towards telemedicine and teleconsultation. And it's almost as though mymedicines.com was set up ready, waiting for COVID-19, because the demand for mymedicines.com has shot up like 5 to 6 times. And so now, what has happened is that they're able to sit in their homes, write on Twitter, please, where can I get medicine? People will tell them, oh, try mymedicines.com. They order their medicines and we deliver to them at home. So it's thrown up an opportunity for tech-enabled solutions. The second thing is that it has shown that there's a need for collaboration. Some clinics that were underutilizing their space have found reason now for them to say, what, let's close down 3, 4 clinics, let's use one and time shift. So that way we're able to make better use of our resources. It's a way to go and it's the way of the future. I really think we could do less with, the brick and mortar, and we could do more with the brick and mortar we have and, optimize those opportunities. Third, it has shown our vulnerabilities to global supply chain systems, and that vulnerability has thrown up problems. The way I think, problems, I think opportunities. So it's like a coin. One side, it looks like a problem. The other side, it looks like what? An opportunity. So if there are huge gaps in our global supply chain, where our over-reliance on China and India has shown that if they have a crisis, they'll look at themselves, they look after themselves first. It has shown us that upstream in our sector, in this healthcare sector, if we're not producing enough for Africa, for Nigeria, now is the time for you to start producing. Now is the time for us to band together, form our resources together, and begin to produce for Nigerian consumption, and then later for export. So there are opportunities now in drug production, material production. You saw how tailoring outfits became sewers of masks and PPEs, right? That is an opportunity. COVID has shown us that instead of importing, we can locally produce. We can source raw materials even and do things. I remember when there was a lot of pressure on us to buy and import certain masks, face masks, that the wahala we're going to see. In fact, from one of our Italian technical partners for a company that I'm a part of, they painted a story of doom and gloom. That, hey, better stock up on, look, Nigerians found a solution and we started to use face masks that were made from cloth. That for me is how to go. When you see a problem and you can innovate from within. So, Africans have not shamed me. We don't carry last, and we've looked at that. So the affinity for tech solutions, the fact that supply chain issues, the fact that we can produce internally. The last one is the resources and how we're able to utilize off-site locations for doing more things. Now you're not curtailed by geography. Now your partner, your business partner, the person you're doing a venture with might be residing in Nairobi. Do you know that? The world has opened up to us. COVID, using Zoom to now have conferences, this wasn't so in January. In January, you would ask 50 people to sign on, and maybe 6 or 7 will sign on. Now it's becoming the new normal. So guess what? You can break barriers. You can leapfrog over previously existing geographical barriers, age barriers, social status barriers, and now you can have FaceTime with those who are critical for your success. So for me, COVID-19 has made the world open up like an oyster, and you can use what you have now to address what you need. Oh, my colleague Anthony has actually posted the link of the interview I did with.
Yeah, yes, it did. Thank you very much, Anthony. All right, thank you very much for the brilliant session. There was a lot to learn, and I'm sure the attendees have a lot. They've also learned a lot, and you know, if I would love you to give us last or your final remark for the session.
Okay, I'm going
For
to repeat myself. I'm going to repeat myself in my final words.
all right.
Africa has a lot of problems. I used to work with someone called Tony Elumelu, and he says he's got a philosophy called Africapitalism, and he says Africans must solve African problems. What I'm looking for is for us to see that those problems exist as problems now, but they are actually disguised. They are in disguise. They are actually opportunities. So Africa has a myriad of opportunities. Take one, study it, know what it entails, and give yourself a chance to practice. You will fail in at least 6, 7 of them, but the one you will succeed in might be the one that you're actually created for, and that's where you are for such a time as this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Abimbola. It was nice having
You're
you on this
welcome.
session, and we look forward to having more engagement with you. Thank you very much,
For the
everybody. Thank you for
opportunity.
joining.
Bye.
It's been an amazing session. Please join. Please join the ongoing Joberman career fair in the general section. The meeting link is in the chat room, so please join. Thank you very much for joining this session. Have a nice day.